Order. Order. I will call Gavin Robinson to move the motion. I will then call the Minister to respond. I remind other members that they may only make a speech with prior permission from the member in charge of the debate and the Minister. There will not be an opportunity for the member in charge to wind up, as is the convention, as he knows, I'm sure, for 30-minute debates. Order, order. Gavin Robinson to move the motion.
Mr Pritchard, I beg to move that this House has considered 125 years anniversary of the Irish Guards. Mr Pritchard, it's a great pleasure to serve under your chairmanship and as a Parliament to take this opportunity to celebrate a significant milestone for the Irish Guards. Can I thank the Minister at the start of the debate for being present for this enjoyable occasion. Yesterday evening in the Royal Military Chapel, the Guards Chapel, and in St Mark's, Dundela, in my constituency of East Belfast, services were held to give thanks for the service and the sacrifice, for the bravery, loyalty and determined strength of the Irish Guards. Today I am privileged to offer the same opportunity to our Parliament. Yesterday, the 1st of April, marked 125 years since the formation of the Irish Guards. Mr Pritchard, on the 28th of February 1900, you may remember it well, a letter to the Times read like this: Sir, may I venture to suggest through you to the authorities within whose provenance it may come that now is a most opportune time to recognise the distinguished valour of our Irish soldiers who, in the Enniskillen Fusiliers, the Dublin Fusiliers and the Connaught Rangers, have shown to the world such conspicuous bravery in the many recent battles which they have fought with such brilliant dash and daring throughout the South African War. There is not one mark of distinction and honour that be conferred upon them and their country which belongs to Scotchmen and Englishmen, but is withheld from them. There are Scots Guards and there are English Guards. Why not add to the roll of glory a regiment of Irish Guards? On the 3rd of March 1900, a letter of response issued from the Queen's private secretary in reply to the Secretary of State for War, Windsor Castle. My dear Lord Lansdowne, by a curious coincidence, the Queen has during the past week been seriously considering the question of a regiment of Irish Guards, thinking that the present was opportunity for its creation. Therefore, I am glad to be able to tell you that the Queen entirely approves of the ideal. Her Majesty asked the Duke of Connaught to speak to the Commander-in-Chief on this subject and hopes that you will therefore find that Lord Wolseley is already in possession of Her Majesty's views. There so issued an Army Order 77 on the 1st of April 1900, the formation of Regiment of Irish Guards. Her Majesty the Queen has deemed it desirable to commemorate the bravery shown by the Irish regiments in recent operations in South Africa, has been graciously pleased to command that Irish Regiment of Foot Guards be formed. This regiment will be designated the Irish Guards. Mr Pritchard, affectionately now known as the Mix, they were formed in solemn recognition of their antecedents' bravery arising from their sterling contribution to our nation. The formation was a fitting tribute to the bravery of the Enniskillen Fusiliers, the Dublin Fusiliers and the Connaught Rangers during the Boer War. This Unionist is not only grateful, but proud that the history and heritage of the Irish Guards predates partition, and to this day draws personnel from across the island of Ireland. And this Unionist is proud that the regiment's emblem, motto and blue plumage all draw upon and recognise our patron saint, St Patrick. Of course.
Mr Chairman, first of all, can I commend my honourable friend, the Right Honourable Member for Belfast East, for bringing this forward. He's immensely proud of it as well, and I'm immensely proud because in Newton Ards and Strangford we have the second largest Irish Guards Association after Liverpool. The reputation of the Guards from the Ards, as are well known, is secure, with Ards and North Down Borough Council granting the freedom of the borough for the Irish Guards in 2022? And does my right honourable friend not agree that the reputation, the service and the legacy of the Irish Guards is one that we can all be rightly proud of, wherever we live in this great United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, and those in the Republic of Ireland who served in it as well?
Hear you. I'm very grateful to my honourable friend, Mr Pritchard, and he's right to mention the Guards from Ards, just as it would be right to mention the mini-mix, which is the cadets that are associated with the Irish Guards, and also recognise the affection for those past and present who have served the Irish Guards and our country with distinction, many of whom who leave the service and go on to perform duties in support of us. And so, with your permission, Mr Pritchard, I would like to recognise Mr Wayne Jenkins, who is our Deputy Principal Doorkeeper. I believe he is here this afternoon. He served his country proudly in the Irish Guards, and so just as the honourable member mentions Liverpool, I think it's important that we recognise his service. Mr Pritchard, each St Patrick's Day, the regiment receives shamrock from their colonel of the regiment. Her Royal Highness the Princess of Wales is admired and highly regarded beyond the regiment. But it was wonderful this year to see her with the regiment and to enjoy a customary pint of Guinness. Mr Pritchard, 125 years is an epoch of time. That duration of service can be marked in many ways. When we consider the regiment was formed in 1900, the only thing flying in the skies those days were birds. And yet in the century that's followed, our skies have not been the limit to man's exploration. When the regiment was formed, mail was sent after putting parchment and quill together. Now mail is sent through the ether in bytes. Where we consider that during the passage of those 125 years, we've endured 2 world wars, a war on terror, and as we meet today, the invasion of a sovereign nation of Ukraine in our own European continent. And yet in each one of those latter examples, the Irish Guards served with distinction. Forming part of the British Expeditionary Force, the Irish Guards were pivotal during the First World War in France. As a regiment, 4 Victoria Crosses were earned. Their gallantry was unquestioned in Ypres, as it was elsewhere. During the course of the Second World War, the 2nd Battalion was raised in 1939 and a 3rd Battalion raised in 1942. Normandy, Belgium, Holland, and finally in Germany cannot be considered historically without considering the role of the Irish Guards. Since then, Palestine, Suez, Cyprus, Afghanistan, Iraq, all form part of the regiment's illustrious history. It is hard to consider a conflict over the last century without considering the bravery and the fortitude of the Irish Guards. More recently, Guardsmen have been training, equipping and supporting Ukrainians in the defence of their country through Operation Interflex. And though that is their primary function, as foot guards of the Household Division, the Irish Guards also have the illustrious privilege of ceremonial duties. At times of national pride, and indeed at times of national sorrow, the Irish Guards have played their part with impeccable distinction. I fondly remember being present for Tripping of the Colour in 2022. It was a special year. Our nation was celebrating the Platinum Jubilee, marking the enormity of our Queen's 70 wholesome years of reign. What is an annual showcase occasion was made all the more special by its historic nature, providing a climax to wonderful Jubilee celebrations held throughout our nation and throughout the Commonwealth, and suitably led, with the colours being trooped by the Irish Guards. An incredible honour that was accentuated just some 3 months later when we all realised that that trooping of the colour would be Her Majesty's last. All too often, at times of distress, we seek the familiar and the comforting. We seek the warming reassurance of the constant. And yet, on this occasion, it is right that we recognise that those who served in the Irish Guards and our armed forces more generally often forego the constant of family life, family support and the comfort of home so that we can enjoy ours. As this Parliament, Mr Pritchard, wrestles with the legacy of our past, I ask that this Parliament is prepared to honour and recognise the service and the sacrifice of those who have gone before, to defend those who defended us, and in this week celebrate 125 years of the Irish Guards. We honour them and we thank them and we wish them continued success. Mr Pritchard, qui separabit? Who shall separate us?
Question is that this House has considered the 125th anniversary of the Irish Guards. Minister.
It's a pleasure to serve under your chairmanship, and I'm grateful to the honourable member for East Belfast for the opportunity to celebrate the outstanding service of the Irish Guards, and to have in our presence the doorkeeper who has served his country so admirably in that fantastic regiment. I think it would certainly be foolish to think we can sum up those 125 remarkable years of service in a 30-minute debate. But indeed, one of the most renowned writers, Rudyard Kipling, spent 5.5 years researching its 1923 history of the regiment. A labour of love in honour of his son John, a teenager and an Irish Guardsman who was killed in 1915 during the first days of the deadly Battle of Loos. An Allied offensive that had meant to be the big push, which ended up with 60,000 British casualties, many Irish Guardsmen amongst them, but negligible territorial gains. During the Great War, Irish Guardsmen went on to win 4 Victoria Crosses, a remarkable achievement for any regiment. And over the next century, the regiment served with distinction at turning point after continued turning point in British history. In North Africa, absolutely.
Member for securing this very important debate. When I started the Royal Military Academy, Sandhurst, as a member of 29 Platoon Alamein, we were very fortunate to have as our first Colour Sergeant a member of the Irish Guards, Colour Sergeant Griffith. And although I have to admit I probably wasn't very promising material, under his guidance and tutelage, I learned an awful lot. And many of the lessons that he taught me at Sandhurst, I've carried forward in my life since then, and have come in very helpful in my life as an MP. I think it's safe to say there are a few people that I've learned as much from as from Griff. Will the Minister agree that there is few better cap badges to have, providing you with your first Colour Sergeant when you begin your military career?
I think that's a really fitting tribute, and I'm sure that Colour Sergeant is looking on with great pride to see how you've come from the military and now in Parliament. Absolutely.
Not sure if it's the same person, but Simon Nichols, Colour Sergeant from Newton Ards, one of the guards from the Ards. He was one of the ones who trained the personnel at Sandhurst. He actually is the one who trained Prince William and Prince Harry. I think one of them turned out well, the other one I'm not so sure about. But just to say that he was instrumental in looking after the soldiers, male and female, who went through there. So Simon Nichols from Ards, a guard from the Ards.
Minister.
And I think another fitting tribute, and I would suggest there will be many across the Parliament on both sides, well, every side of the House. I think the Irish Guards, have served with distinction in North Africa, Italy, Normandy, Arnhem, where the Irish Guardsmen led the ground assault to relieve the besieged British paratroopers. In post-war years, they've served with distinction in Palestine and Malaya, and in my lifetime in Northern Ireland, the Falklands, although I was very young at the time, the Gulf, Bosnia, Kosovo, Iraq, and of course, Afghanistan. I myself had the privilege of serving under a general who had served in the Irish Guards, and I learnt a huge amount from him, which was just an example of the exceptional leadership of individuals and young officers that come up and grow up through that fantastic regiment. The regimental motto lays down a pledge of unity: who shall separate us? And I think that's really, really hard-hitting and poignant. And after 125 years of service, that motto has absolutely stood the test of time. The Irish Guards stand strong and united with a bright future ahead of them, having recently gained a new role within the Army's advanced forces, where it will be better equipped for warfighting, which will further bolster NATO and, importantly, European security. As Guardsmen, the regiment has also made an immense contribution in non-combat roles. In recent years, they have been particularly focused on training partners in Africa, countering security challenges as varied as violent extremism, illegal wildlife trade, all the way through to security itself. Absolutely.
I'm grateful to the honourable and gallant member for giving way, and wanted to just add my own words of tribute to my brothers in the Irish Guards. I had the huge privilege of my warrior sergeant was a man called Glenn Crawley. He was, through I think an accident as a child, he only had one eye, and he was known universally as the one-eye G, which is a one for the military amongst you to appreciate. And I also had in the 1st Battalion Scots Guards, when we were Task Force Lashkar, Sergeant Dale Alonso McCallum, who we inherited from the Irish Guards, who rebadged as a Scots Guardsman. Tragically, he was killed in Afghanistan by sniper fire, and I paid tribute to him at the time as undoubtedly the coolest Scots Guardsman ever to walk the earth. And no doubt his time in the Irish Guards prepared him for that role admirably. The other thing I want to do is, I don't know if the Minister's aware, but that the Irish Guards have also spawned an organisation called the Blackthorn Rally. The Blackthorn Rally go on 2 wheels and 4 to some of the craziest places in the world, not least the Northern Sahara, Tanzania, Kenya, and this year, for their 10th anniversary, to Colombia. Sadly, I won't be joining them this year because I will be enjoying the joys of the Conservative conference in Birmingham instead. But what this extraordinary group of mostly mixed to...
Sorry, forgive me, order. Can I just remind the honourable gentleman, even though this is all fascinating and interesting, interventions do need to be kept short. If he wants to... I'm going to be flexible. The chair has discretion. If the mover of the motion is happy for him to continue and the minister is happy to reserve his remarks until after the honourable gentleman has concluded, then I'm going to let it go. I want to hear what's going on. I want to hear all of this. I'll probably get in trouble, but subject to the mover of the motion and the minister agreeing, I will let the honourable gentleman continue. Is that, are you happy, sir? Absolutely. Minister? Lincoln Job.
I'm very grateful for your forbearance, Mr Pritchard, and it's a great honour to serve under your chairmanship.
There is now a division. So, I'm sure we will get round to these excellent tributes and stories of the Irish and the Scots Guards and others indeed. Division, order. This sitting is suspended. 15 minutes for the first vote, 10 thereafter. Please come back as quickly as possible. Thank you. Order. Thank you. Order. Order. There may be some other divisions, but I think we'll crack on, and I continue the debate, calling Lincoln Jock. Before I do that, I would say that this debate is due to end at 14:40, so I'm sure everybody will be mindful of that. Lincoln Jock.
Thank you, Chair, again, and thank you for your forbearance and the generosity of the Minister and the sponsoring member. I was just talking about the Blackthorn Rally and the extraordinary work that they do, both in terms of having great fun, but also delivering conservation projects around the world, and also taking with them former service personnel who are, in some cases, incredibly disabled. I think our record in one razor was one working limb between the two drivers. So the Irish Guards, the effect and the effectiveness of them is extraordinary, their reach, and I pay tribute to them on their birthday.
So I'd be really interested to follow that two-wheeled rally and see what they're up to next year, and see if we can go and visit or take part. That would be really interesting to do. The Irish Guards have, as I mentioned previously, had a fantastic operational role, but they've also played a very visible role in British life, pulling society and defence back together. And that's primarily through ceremonial duties here in the London region, which have supported countless important political and royal events, including the state birthday of the funeral of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II. Today, 125 years and one day after their formation by Queen Victoria, in recognition of the bravery and service of Irish soldiers during the Second Boer War, it is right that we not only reflect on their collective past achievements, but that we also honour the generation of... I will, absolutely.
Can I thank my honourable friend from East Belfast for bringing this debate? The Minister speaks of the contribution. I think it would be remiss of me not to mention Sir John Gorman, former Ulster Unionist, MLA, former Deputy Speaker of the Northern Ireland Assembly. Actually, Sir John Gorman, CVO, CBE, MC, because of the actions he took actually during Operation Market Garden, when he actually got the length of Nijmegen before that operation was called off. So also to acknowledge the role that those who have also been part of the Irish Guards, trained by Irish Guards, and still recognise and salute the Irish Guards through where they finish up in all walks of life in regards to how that contribution they make to our society in general. Yeah.
I think a really fascinating point. I think it was 30 Army Corps that went to relieve the bridgehead in Arnhem, and the Irish Guards were at the very front of it. If you look at the operational orders written for 30 Corps, they're probably in around 6 pages long. And it's truly remarkable the level of mission command and leadership to relieve them of that very tricky position they were in. In celebration, a service of commemoration obviously was held yesterday evening simultaneously in the Guards Chapel and in Liverpool, Belfast, Birmingham and Dublin. As representatives of the regiment also marked the occasion in Ladysmith, South Africa, which is linked to the regiment's conception, and where the regiment has enjoyed freedom of Ladysmith since 2005. Yesterday's events were part of a year of commemorations in which Her Royal Highness, the Prince of Wales, Colonel of the regiment, joined the St Patrick's Day celebrations at Wellington Barracks, presenting shamrocks to the officers and soldiers on parade. And over the summer, there will be a series of concerts and parades in Northern Ireland and in London, including one in Belfast to lay up the 1st Battalion's old colours. So in conclusion, Chair, as we honour 125 years of distinguished service by the Irish Guards, we recognise not just the regiment and its achievements, but also the countless acts of individual courage and sacrifice and duty by Irish Guardsmen and women over the years. Their collective endeavour, legacy transcends borders, politics and the passing of time. For 125 years, they have been the very best of us. And for that, members across this House and people across the country, indeed, offer their most profound thanks. Thank you.
The question is that this House has considered the 125th anniversary of the Irish Guards. As many put that opinion say aye. On the contrary, no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. Order. Order. And we now in the debate, and we come on to the next debate in a few moments when the Minister arrives. Minister, thank you. Have a good evening. Thank you. Thank you.